a load of this.
If Spider-Man can't show up to court and he's wed to the robber, he's got him up against the wall with a little sign that says, "From your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man." If all they have is Spider-Man's note, that's not going to be enough to convict him. My name is Doug Ridley, and I'm a criminal defense attorney. You know, when I first watched that film, I was feeling very sympathetic towards Peter. It's just an innocent mistake that this guy accidentally trips over a pipe and goes out the window. But if I'm really looking at this and really analyzing it from a criminal law standpoint, Peter goes there to beat this guy up. He is going there to beat up the guy that killed his uncle. He's not going over there to apprehend him. He goes in there and starts beating on him right away. And if he's going there to commit a felony, to assault this person, whether he deserves it or not, and the person dies, Peter's actually good for murder. Legally, he's good for the results of that whole battle. And unintentioned or not, I'm so sorry, Peter, but you're good for murder.
He's a criminal, that's who he is.
The glider scene is really interesting. When he jumps out of the way, he's not changing the trajectory of the glider. He is literally just getting out of the way. So I think Peter has zero liability for what happens to Norman Osborn, even though Harry can't quite accept that.
I swear on my father's grave, Spider-Man will pay.
Our general right of self-defense is that we're allowed to use equal force to protect ourselves. So somebody punches me, I don't have the ability to shoot them right in the head. I have the ability to use equal force back. Peter stops the bomb from going at him, but then he intentionally whips it right back at Harry. So the self-defense argument would have had to have been that Peter somehow was stopping Harry from grabbing a second, a third, or a fourth pumpkin bomb, and so therefore it was equal force. Peter, after the strawberry line that Harry says about kissing MJ, just hauls off and socks him right in the mouth. The person that starts the fight really has a hard time of claiming self-defense for everything else that happens from there. And then we can pause it at the moment where Harry brings out the sword or dagger or whatever it is and stabs Peter right in his stomach. Harry wouldn't have right to self-defense to have more force being used. They keep escalating, and so none of them are in the right through the whole thing. I've also seen cases where prosecutors just throw up their hands and say, this is a mutual combat situation, and neither of them is a true victim or a true defendant.
Gonna cry?
Sometimes on lesser level fights that don't involve pumpkin bombs, they might just let the whole thing go away because it's mutual combat. The symbiote aspect of what's going on with Peter, Mr. Raimi did a fantastic job of this drug addiction allegory that's going on here, layered over with some mental health issues. If someone really truly has a major addiction, they're not completely let off the hook for the crimes they commit while they're under the influence of drugs or other substances, but it definitely is a factor that we can argue to try to reduce their sentence or try to reduce the charges in some way. Someone who has a true multiple personality disorder and has a significant mental health issue, here in California at least, we have a new diversion statute that allows people to get treatment for their mental health issues and avoid criminal prosecution completely. So I would love to put emo Peter through the mental health program and come up with a treatment plan. Treatment plan apparently involves ringing large bells and making venom leave him, and if only if it was that easy in real life. When Gwen falls and doesn't survive the fall, there's going to be a question there about whether or not he was negligent in some way. The word negligent has a very specific legal meaning, and it's somebody not exercising the level of care that they should otherwise. And if he was negligent, it wouldn't be a murder charge, but it could be a voluntary manslaughter charge. We see that sometimes if people are making bad decisions when they're driving. People who are driving and somebody dies sometimes are charged with vehicular manslaughter or voluntary manslaughter. And so it's a similar analysis to that. Very sad in those sorts of cases because there's not truly a bad guy. There's someone who may not have exercised the level of care that they were supposed to.
I can't go to Germany.
Why?
I got homework.
Tony Stark has a ton of liability for everything that he is encouraging this minor to do. And we can use the examples of situations where parents allow their kids to use firearms. Those parents are liable for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Oh, if I was defending Peter, I would have him roll on Tony in a minute. No question about it. I would blame Tony all day, every day for everything bad that happened to Peter.
Spider-Man attacked me for some reason. He has an army weaponized drone, Stark technology.
Do it! Execute them all!
Video footage has always been used as primary evidence in cases, but this is a new time where we can't always trust exactly what's going on if we see it on video, if we see it on audio. With the advancement of AI and how all of that's going, it casts a lot of doubt on evidence that we used to take for granted.
There you have it, folks. Conclusive proof that Spider-Man was responsible for the brutal murder of Mysterio.
I would love to represent Peter on a libel suit against J. Jonah Jameson and the Daily Bugle. I don't know that Peter would go for it. Here's the challenge. The rules on libel and defamation when it comes to public figures are much different than a regular citizen. There's a much higher threshold. Peter Parker would have a case, but he wouldn't be able to do it as Spider-Man. Spider-Man is not a person. So when we file something in court, it is our legal names. There is absolutely no way that any judge in this country would allow somebody to walk into their courtroom with a mask on and take the stand and not identify themselves by their true and legal name.
That's great. Thank you. Well, I have some good news, Peter. I don't believe any of the charges against you are going to stick.
I would love to be able to tell you that I can get cases resolved in the 15 minutes that it took during the movie for Matt Murdock to get it done. No matter how great Matt Murdock is as a lawyer, there's definitely not going to be a complete resolution of the case that fast. I will say, however, that there have been a lot of times where picking up the phone and having some conversations definitely does sometimes resolve cases.
What the hell is going on out there? I keep yelling at you, Peter 2, Peter 2, Peter 2.
I know, but I thought you were Peter 2.
What? I'm not Peter 2. Stop arguing, both of you. Listen to Peter 1.
If I had somebody that came in and said that they were from the multiverse, I mean, if that happened tomorrow, I'm going to have to get them psychologically evaluated. I mean, that's just the way that it has to be. If we establish, for argument's sake, that the multiverse exists, I would absolutely argue the multiversal theory. I would just not want to be the first person to do that.
Just leave me out of